I am open to the evolution of my soul. I am open to the revolution of my soul. My mind is alert. My heart is receptive. My next step is here and now. There you go. Now you can raise it. Thank you. Okay. I got to get used to the idea that we're doing that now. I think it's a good idea to remind ourselves before I start talking that you're here to receive something. You're here to receive something that will lift you up. And so today we're talking about raising the dead. And what we're really talking about here is enthusiasm. And the original meaning of enthusiasm was divine inspiration. And inspire means to breathe life into. So what we're talking about here is breathing life into our lives with enthusiasm to raise the dead of mediocrity. So if you do tasks that you feel are mediocre, that's dead. If you go around and feel like you're in a rut, that's dead. If you eat brains, that's zombie. Because most of us are walking around like the Walking Dead, right? If we're not enthusiastic, we're actually walking around like the Walking Dead. So I want to tell you about a workshop I went to back in the 20s. It was called Relationships. And I go to this workshop and I have this really great time. And so great, in fact, that I decide that my girlfriend at the time needs to take this workshop. And so I sign her up for it. And then I call them, these people, I was living in New York at the time, the workshop was in Boston. I call them and I say, I want to support this workshop. I want to be there to help support, be on the team that supports the workshop. And they're like, well, we don't know you from Adam, so if you came up and did that, the best you could expect is that you'd be a gopher and clean. I go, okay, I just want to be supportive. So I get up there, and sure enough, and I could have been like, well, wait a minute, I write my own workshops. At the time, I was leading workshops and had my own crew doing work, all this stuff, and I could have been fairly offended by them saying all I was going to get to do is be a gopher and clean, but I thought, no, I just want to be supportive. These guys do great work. I want to support it so that my girlfriend at the time and all the other people in the workshop have a great workshop. And so I get up there, and sure enough, I just start being the gopher and start cleaning up as they're telling me, and when they say, go get this and go get this. And I'm doing it, and I'm having a great time. I'm just really loving being there. And obviously they started to notice that because before the end of Friday night, the first night of the workshop, they said, well, listen, how about you be the door guard on the outside? We're not going to let you in the room all weekend, but you can be the door guard on the outside and just pass notes through. And when the person on the inside says it's okay to open the door to let people come in and out, do that. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And I did that. And I did it with the kind of enthusiasm I like to bring to everything. And the next morning they go, why don't you be the inside door guy? And I'm like, okay, so the next day I'm the inside door guy, and now I'm the one who's, making sure that everything's running smoothly in terms of the door not being distractive to the rest of the thing. And then all of a sudden the sound system starts to feed back. And they're scrambling over there to try to fix it. So I say to somebody, I actually know something about this. Would you like me to give it a shot? And they're like, absolutely, get over there, see what you can do. And so I go over there and pretty quickly see what the problem is and get rid of the feedback in the room. And then I go, now you're the sound person. And so now I'm the sound person. And so that goes on a little bit longer. And then between when they have breaks, I notice everybody scrambling to clean up the room and put back the chairs in order. And so I get up because I know about that kind of thing and how it builds energy. And so I get up and I just start helping. And I just start cleaning up and putting chairs away. And then before the end of Saturday, the person who was running the entire event comes to me and says, you seem to know what you're doing here. How about you be in charge of the inside room? So now by the end of Saturday, I'm now running the room of the workshop, right? And so the next day, Sunday morning, we find out that the workshop leader, the guy leading the whole thing, has a back issue. And given I've done 90 jobs, one of them has actually been being a masseur. So I tell them that, and they go, great, get on up there and give the guy a massage. So I go up, and I'm giving the leader of the whole thing a massage. And while I'm doing that, he's asking me questions about this, that, and the other thing. And I tell him, and he wants to know about me. So I'm telling him about me. And then I tell him about this exercise that I came up with, and this musical exercise where people sing to each other as they stand in circle and they go around to each other person. And he goes, that's fantastic. Would you like to do that today? And so before I know it, I'm now on stage leading an exercise in this workshop. Which, my girlfriend at the time, she's surprised and she's looking up going, and I'm up there going, I know. So I lead this workshop and it goes off great and everybody just thinks I'm this hero now. And all it started with was me showing up enthusiastically. Right? All I did was every step of the way do whatever was mine to do enthusiastically, breathe life into it, and be present. And before I know it, I'm one of the workshop leaders with everybody else standing around going, how did that happen? And it turns out, here's the funniest thing about this. There's a survey that was taken about people who get promoted at jobs. Turns out that more than not, the person who's mostly qualified for the promotion loses it to somebody who's more enthusiastic. That enthusiasm wins every time. But you could say something like, well, my life doesn't really have, there's nothing enthusiastic going on. And I say to you, no, this isn't about whether your life is enthusiastic. It's about what you breathe into it. It's not about having a life that makes you enthusiastic. It's about whatever your circumstancing, you breathing life into it, you breathing enthusiasm into it, and that's what makes change like what happened to me up in Boston possible. When we show up and somebody says, this needs cleaning, and you do it enthusiastically, people notice that stuff. People always notice that stuff. Maybe not immediately. Maybe you're surrounded by a bunch of negative people, and that just means you need to breathe life in even more. But don't give in to others' lack of enthusiasm. Don't buy into others eating brains. It's really up to you to raise yourself from the dead, to raise yourself above the mundane, to raise yourself to a place of, this feels great. And when you do that, you can inspire others. So maybe some of you know the story that Ash and I, my wife and I, met online. And after we were talking for a while, we started talking about meeting in person for the first time. And at the time, I was in Cincinnati. She was here in LA. And so she all of a sudden goes, well, I'll come to visit you first. And I'm like, whoa, what enthusiasm and courage that we've never met in person, and she's willing to fly out to Cincinnati to meet me? Well, I'm not going to have that. So I decided after we booked her flight to come visit me, I booked mine to visit her a week earlier. I'm not competitive at all. But she inspired me. That's what happens when we are an inspiring person, when we bring enthusiasm to something. It inspires others to rise, and then they wind up doing things that you least expect. She certainly didn't expect me to all of a sudden show up in LA after we'd gone through all the trouble of booking her to come to Cincinnati a week before. And so that worked out really incredibly and miraculous. Right? Because that's what can happen when we don't allow ourselves to fold, when we don't allow ourselves to buy into the mediocrity and the regularness of life. It's really up to us. You don't wait for the perfect and right opportunity. You make it in that moment. You bring it. You got to bring that enthusiasm, no matter what the thing. You could, whatever it is, if you're feeling resentful, if you're feeling like it's not good enough for you, you think you should be doing something better, you get in there and bring your enthusiasm and you will change it anyway. You can change anything by bringing your enthusiasm to it. Great story by Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer. Maybe some of you have read it, know the story. Tom Sawyer's told he's got to go out and paint a fence. All his friends are out there playing. He wants to go play with his friends. But he's got to paint the fence. So he decides he's going to bring to it fun and enthusiasm. Since he's got to do it anyway, he's going to make it fun. So he gets out there and starts laughing and being giddy and bringing all this enthusiasm to painting that fence till his friends start coming around and going, "Can we do that with you?" And he's like, "Nah, this is for me. I don't really want to share this. That I'm having way too much fun there." And so they start begging him to help paint the fence, right? Until he's got, "Well, you got to let me show you so you get it just right." And so all of a sudden, he's got 8 of his friends painting the fence while he's over on the side taking a nap. Now, that would have never happened if he didn't bring his enthusiasm to it. So it's really about what we bring. It's not about what it is you have to do. You could call it a chore, or you could call it, "This is my next adventure." When he treated it as next adventure, that's what made the thing rise. That's what made it more than what it could have been, and that's what allowed him to take a nap. So we have these opportunities in our lives that we're presented with all the time to be more, to bring more, to breathe life into whatever it is and raise the dead. Raise the dead of any mundaneness. Raise the dead of anything that feels like it's less than what we should be doing right now. It is never about what it is you're doing. It is always about what it is you are bringing to what it is you are doing, right? Now, one of the ways in which we tend to lose enthusiasm is by something that was great for us, but then we start taking for granted, right? I heard somebody say that's like turning a miracle into a monument. A monument is what used to be exciting, but no longer is. Now we just remember the past. It's up to us to bring the newness to it, whether it be your marriage, whether it be a relationship, whether it be your job, whether it be your health, whatever it is. Nothing brings up health better than enthusiasm. Breathing life into your health makes your health better. Caring about your life, getting all down and discouraged about your life. Where's your immune system going? Where's your energy going? But when you bring enthusiasm to, of course, my life itself is great. I say to you guys constantly that there's nothing intrinsic in anything. It's the meaning we bring to it. And yet, I have also said that we all know that first breath of that little baby is sacred. And that if the first breath is sacred, then all breath is sacred. And if all breath is sacred, then what we do with that breath is sacred. So what are you doing with your life? I challenge you to bring to the things you think are the most mundane your enthusiasm, your divine inspiration. Because when we bring divine inspiration, things rise in the most amazing ways. I lived in this house for 10 years, 3,000 square foot house on top of a mountain. And I never took that house for granted. Every single day I'd wake up and listen to the birds and go out on my deck and look out and just thank whatever power there is in the universe that I got to be in that house. Every single day, I never took it for granted. And so when it came time to leave that house, I walked away from it feeling full. Feeling like I really had this fantastic experience, and it was great, and I didn't miss out on any of it. And that was really incredible to do. And so with my wife, I make sure every single day I thank her for being, well, almost every single day. I'm sure I've missed some. But almost every single day, thanking her for being in my life. and telling her what I appreciate about her. Because I want to keep bringing that enthusiasm. I don't want to be taking our relationship for granted. I challenge you to look around. The other thing is when somebody calls you and you answer the phone, have you ever called somebody and had them answer the phone unenthusiastic to hear from you? That's happened to me. And it feels horrible. So it's important that we actually, when we're answering the phone, make the other person feel like we're glad to hear from them. Bring that enthusiasm to the conversation and see how that will change the conversation simply by the enthusiasm you bring to it. Are you one of these people who, when you go to meet, whether it be business or friends or whatever, show up late, are always frazzled, always behind in your time? Or do you show up for people early with enthusiasm, ready to really engage them? It makes a huge difference on how they feel when they see you. And so sure, if you have somebody in your life who's negative, we teach here how to rise above that. But we also want to be the light for others. And in being that light, we want to bring to it that open-heartedness, that love, that light, that beauty that is possible. There's something so powerful when we bring our love and our light. My grandmother and grandfather had the most enthusiastic relationship I have ever yet to see in my life. They were together over 50 years. They met at 12. And when I was 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there, it was my first time having dinner at my grandparents' house without my parents. And so I'm in the kitchen with my grandmother, and the doorbell rings, and it's my grandfather. And so I go run into the door to open it. I open the door. He grabs the door out of my hand and slams it. And my grandmother comes running up like a giddy little girl going, "Oh, he won't come in unless he sees me first." And she opens the door and they run into each other's arms. They were in their 60s. They ran into each other's arms. And I got to stand there and watch that and just go, wow, that's relationship, right? And so I saw that. And so a few years later, when Grandma was diagnosed with terminal cancer, now this is back in the 60s, when there really wasn't a lot going on to save people. She was told she had less than 3 months to live. My grandfather said, "No, my love is stronger than any diagnosis." And he stood for her with such enthusiasm, she outlived him. This is what's possible. This is what's possible when we move forward with this beautiful thing we call breathing life into stuff. There is no end to the miracles that are possible. There's just no end to what's possible when we start breathing life into life, when we start bringing our enthusiasm. There's no being out there that's going to somehow make your life enthusiastic, that's going to somehow turn your life around and make it the happy-go-lucky thing you want. It's in you. It's as you. You bring divine inspiration. You bringing your life to glory. You bringing the beauty and essence to everything. You do it. And I am here to challenge you to do it, to breathe life into every moment of your life, for every moment of your life. And with that, the divine inspiration will bring about miracles we can't even imagine. Thank you. All right, take out what you're going to give. Hold it in your hand. Unfold it. Unfold it, because this is God too. This is energy. This is light. This is love. This is how we get the law of circulation and motion. You don't crumple it up. You bring it out and hold it in your hand, knowing this as God. Knowing this is light. Knowing this is the love. You're moving forward. And let's say our affirmation together. God is the source of all supply. Money is God in action. What we give, we receive multiplied abundantly. All that God is, I am.